Most people believe their strongest instincts reveal who they are, but some instincts were never personality in the first place. By the end of this video, you may realize that what you've called intuition is actually a survival habit that never learned when to stop. Think about a moment when someone says they're fine. You nod. The conversation moves on, but 10 minutes later, you're still thinking about the way they said it. What stays with you is not the words. It's the slight pause right before they speak, the tiny tension around their mouth, or the way their eyes looked away for a split second. You don't know why those minor details stick to your mind. You just know they do. And this probably isn't the first time. Maybe you've spent years noticing things other people completely miss. Maybe you've been told you're anxious, too sensitive, or overly analytical. Maybe you've wondered why your brain never seems fully off duty. What if those patterns aren't random? What if several behaviors you've treated as personality traits are actually connected by the same hidden mechanism? It happens not because something is wrong with you. It is because your mind adapted to conditions that forced you to stay on guard. If parts of that already feel familiar, stay with me, because a few of these next signs may explain your life more than you expect. The truth is, the first sign usually looks exactly like intuition. That's why almost nobody recognizes it for what it really is. Most people think intuition is something deeply mysterious, especially when you step into a room and before anyone even speaks, you already feel like something is off. A pause is slightly longer than usual. A smile arrives half a second late. For you, this awareness doesn't feel mystical at all. It feels completely automatic. What you've always called intuition might actually be a nervous system that never stopped looking for danger. Your brain learned to scan the environment first and relax later. It became incredibly efficient at detecting shifts long before explanations ever arrive, before words. As a result, you rarely enter any situation neutrally. Your attention is always working. A quiet question crosses your mind. Why did that feel different? You weren't born watching everything. You weren't born with an instinct to watch everything around you. And what you notice first isn't always what surprises people most. Sometimes, the strangest part isn't being right. It's being right too early. Think about the moments when a friend still texts you. A partner still acts completely normal. Nothing obvious has happened yet, and yet you still clearly feel that something has changed. Your body often detects changes long before your mind can explain them. Pattern recognition happens much faster than conscious reasoning. The nervous system notices inconsistencies before language does. The evidence came later. As a result, you constantly struggle to justify what you feel, and the people around you start to think you're just imagining things. An anxious thought echoes in your mind. I can't prove it, but something definitely changed. The feeling wasn't the mystery. The feeling itself was never the mystery. And over time, that completely changes the way you understand people entirely. Most people crave absolute certainty, but you learned something completely different. Living around contradictions teaches you to tolerate complexity. Think about the moments when someone supports you one day and hurts you the next, and you keep trying to understand both versions of them. Your brain learned early that conflicting realities can coexist. It stopped searching for clean black and white categories. Reality refused to stay simple. As a result, you struggle to reduce people into simple heroes or villains, and others may see you as detached or overly analytical. A bitter realization takes shape in your mind. Both things are true. Confusion became normal long before understanding arrived. Confusion became normal long before understanding arrived. But the same skill that helps you understand people deeply is quietly creating another problem. Not all empathy feels warm. Sometimes it feels like a physical weight on your body. Reading emotions easily often means carrying pain that isn't yours. Think about the times someone tells you a heartbreaking story. Hours later, your chest still feels heavy. The sad expression of a stranger you passed by stays with your mind. It stays. Emotional attunement always goes hand in hand with emotional absorption. The nervous system that helps you notice what others feel is the exact same one that internalizes those feelings inside you. As a result, you experience deep emotional exhaustion. You completely lose the ability to separate your own state from someone else's. A tired question repeats in your mind. Why am I still carrying this? The gift and the burden come from the same place. The gift and the burden come from the same place. And this is where most common explanations stop too early. Reading danger is a useful skill until looking for danger becomes your default setting. The adaptation itself isn't the mistake. The problem is that it never learned how to stop. Think about the times when nothing is wrong at all, and yet you keep checking your surroundings, rereading text messages, and constantly preparing for the worst-case scenario. Your nervous system still treats uncertainty as an urgent emergency. Safety never became familiar enough for you to fully trust. The threat never arrived. As a result, you live in a state of chronic tension. You completely lose the ability to relax and actually rest. An anxious thought haunts your mind. What am I missing? Your brain solved a problem that no longer exists. Your brain solved a problem that no longer exists. And nowhere does that become clearer than when your life finally starts going well. Failure isn't always what people fear most. Sometimes it's stability. Sometimes you pull away from things simply because calm feels completely unfamiliar to you. Think about the times when you finally have a healthy relationship, a real opportunity, a period where everything is finally stable, and yet, right at that exact moment, you hesitate. Familiarity feels safer than uncertainty, even when that familiarity once hurt you in the past. You leave first. The cost of this fear is broken relationships, lost opportunities, and a self-created distance between you and the world. A self-fulfilling prophecy echoes in your mind. This won't last anyway. The problem wasn't wanting happiness. The problem was never that you didn't want happiness. But even when you see this pattern clearly, a frustrating sense of helplessness remains. This may be the most exhausting part of the entire journey. Because you aren't blind to your own patterns, understanding yourself does not automatically update or heal a wounded nervous system. Think about the times when you recognize the self-sabotaging pattern right while it's happening. You can perfectly explain every single reason after it's over. And yet, you still repeat it the exact same way next time. You watched it happen. Insight is purely cognitive. Real change, however, requires repeated lived experience in reality. The result is deep frustration and a constant habit of judging yourself. You feel completely stuck, despite all your growth. A heavy, helpless sigh echoes in your mind. I knew I was doing it. Knowledge arrived, before safety did. Knowledge arrived before safety did. And that changes the meaning of everything you've heard so far. Maybe the point isn't to erase these patterns. Maybe it's to finally understand them accurately. Looking back at years of your behaviors, you can now reinterpret them through a completely new lens. Adaptations are simply survival responses. They are not character flaws. It makes sense now. The cost of this journey was years spent deeply misunderstanding yourself. An overwhelming wave of relief settles over you. So that's what this was. The mistake was thinking the adaptation was your identity. The mistake was thinking the adaptation was your identity. You are not broken. You are simply operating with adaptations built for another environment. You understood the pattern years before you learned how to leave it. You understood the pattern years before you learned how to leave it. Maybe the most important thing here isn't that you learned how to read people. A lot of people can do that. The real truth is, your mind spent years solving problems it wasn't supposed to carry alone. And after doing that long enough, the adaptation started feeling like your identity. Maybe that's why some parts of your life have felt so confusing. You were trying to understand yourself through the behavior, not through the conditions that created it. The question was never, why am I like this? The deeper question was, what was this trying to help me survive? This video is for the people who notice the shift in someone's voice before anyone mentions it. The people who replay a conversation on the drive home and realize 3 hours later why it felt strange. And the people who understand their patterns clearly, but still feel them pulling at old reflexes. You learn to predict the weather inside people. The hard part was remembering that not every cloud becomes a storm. I'm curious about one thing. Which sign felt the least comfortable to hear? Not the most accurate. The least comfortable. Leave that in the comments. Sometimes the reaction tells the truth before the explanation does. And if these are the kinds of conversations you rarely hear spoken about accurately, subscribe. There are a lot of videos that explain behavior. This channel is more interested in understanding where the behavior came from. Tonight, pay attention to one small moment, a pause, a look, a feeling you immediately try to explain. You might notice something, not about other people, about how long you've been watching.